What is going on, my YouTube familia? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back into another video. And in this video, I guess I'm going to share some of the things that I enjoy doing as side quests as part of my life, and that is being an extra. Even though I have not been an extra for about 8 to 9 years, because obviously once I started my career, I concentrated on that, and you know, it just took off from there. But now that I have some time in my life to just enjoy some of the things I like to do, I was like, let me get back into doing extra work, because I've always had a great time doing it. I thought it was really cool how Hollywood works. And if you guys don't know, I'm in Atlanta, and essentially Atlanta has become Hollywood South, even though, to be honest, I think biasly we are Hollywood now, if I'm being honest, right? So I just got out of a shoot. I'm heading back home. The shoot was really short. It was for a TV show that's going to be on Netflix. Obviously, I can't tell you at the moment, but if you're watching this video way down the line in the future, I can put the link to the show that I was a part of today and some of the actors that I got to see today, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna leave that in the description once the show releases and everything is good to go, right? I don't want to get in trouble for making content like this. But I can tell you though, the last time I was an extra was in a TV show for Disney, actually, and I was an FBI agent. I actually got some camera time because the lead FBI agent in that show was speaking to us, and we were just standing there kind of listening to him, and I actually came out, and my face came out in one of the trailers for the show, which was so cool. Then the first time I was ever an extra was back in the Fast and the Furious, Fast and the Furious 7, actually. I think that was when, around the time Atlanta started becoming so much more popular when it comes to movies and TV shows, right? I remember like the shift that it took, and I got to be part of one of the best films, I feel like, from the franchise, which was the 7th one. If you guys don't remember, that was in the same time that Paul Walker passed away, and I got to meet Paul Walker maybe a month or two before he passed, because I believe he passed in November, and we did the shoot around September or October, right? So it was at the beginning of my school year. So and I was still in college, by the way. I was still in college, so I had to skip a day or two. And in that scene, I was in the military suit. I looked like G.I. Joe back in the day, and it was just so cool. I mean, it was a great experience. Plus, as a background artist, you know, you have to understand that you're like at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to everything they do. You know, sometimes there are some shows that feed you, but it's not great food. Now, when you come into a movie like the Fast and Furious, I got spoiled because the food that we're giving was pretty good. It's a high budget movie. You know, the franchise had been going on for a while, and I was like, yo, this food is pretty good. It's amazing, right? And then being part of the whole movie, I saw Vin Diesel's car that he uses in the movie. I think it's the Challenger, if I'm not mistaken, the black one. And I slept next to his car because there was a scene where they needed more technological people in a room. And on my end, I was just, you know, I wasn't part of that scene. So I was just laying down. I got to speak to Vin Diesel as well. He actually came up and spoke to me because we were in between shoots. And background typically just stands there waiting for them to switch the cameras and do all this work. And while he was taking, you know, his time and his break, I spoke to him. And the conversation was just, you know, like, how you're doing and stuff like that. He asked me how I was doing. I was like, I'm doing good, thank you. You know, how are you doing? And in my inside, I was happy. I was like, yo, like, dude, you don't understand. I've seen all the movies. You know, I'm a huge fan, and I'm a huge fan as a man, and I've always played car video games and stuff like that. I'm a big fan. I used to watch your movies when I was a kid, and now that at that time I was 21. like I get to watch you right in front of me. I mean, it was just face to face, you know. Kurt Russell, I think, was part of that movie as well, and I got to see him. Tyrese, Paul, I think Ludacris was still in that scene. But it was just in a great time, you know. And I wanted to make this video because I was just like, let me share my experiences and what it's like to be an extra. For some people who are interested in becoming an extra, who maybe have aspirations of becoming actors. A lot of people start this way, you know. I don't think I've ever had aspirations of being an actor. I never tried. I don't think I would, just because I don't think I'm talented. Now, don't get me wrong. If they ever give me a spot in a film, you know, say a couple of lines, I can pull it off, I think. But you know, I don't have the expertise they do. But I enjoy being around just cinema in general, right? The cameras, the crew. And even though, like I mentioned, as a background extra, you're at the bottom of the barrel, and you kind of have to get used to that, you know. You find different personalities and backgrounds as well. Today reminded me of what it's like to be a background actor. There's a lot of personalities. There's people who, you know, even though as background artists, they embrace the role they're in, and they take it super serious, and you gotta respect that, you know. I think it's pretty cool that they're embracing it. Some people may go overboard with things. Some people are too serious, you know. Some people don't speak to you. Sometimes if you come into a shoot like I did today, where this shoot had already taken place, right? But what happened was it started raining. So when it started raining, they decided to cut it and then do it for another day. So I got the notification if I wanted to be part of today, and I said yes. So I came today, and it was essentially almost the finish shoot for what started, you know, several days or weeks ago. So they already had like their little clique, you know, they already knew each other. And sometimes trying to fit into those cliques of background artists, you know, you can feel a little left out. Now in my case today, I didn't, because I already had experience with this. I've been part of really big projects like the Fast and the Furious, like I mentioned earlier, and I know what it's like. You know what I mean? I know what it feels like. I know what it is. I know the personality people may have, you know, feeling themselves. It's part of the Hollywood world, if you want to call it that way, for lack of better words. So if you're ever wanting to try something like this, just be confident. And if you don't know, ask questions. You don't look dumb by asking questions. You may feel dumb because you don't know, but you really don't. They really are going to guide you to what they need you to do. I will say, when I say you're like at the bottom, even when you get food and breakfast, a lot of the times as a background artist, you have your own area, and obviously the food for the most part it'll be mid. It'll be your basically, you know, if it's breakfast, your eggs, your sausages, you know, your biscuits and gravy, sometimes some oatmeal and stuff like that, and you know, maybe apple or orange juice. Which, to be honest, I'm cool with that. I'm not picky. You know, that if you're feeding me while I'm doing this, that's great. And typically, if you do like an 8 to 12 hour shoot, they'll feed you 2 to 3 times, which I'm cool with that too. You know, they really are stepping up the game. So one of the advice I would give, if you really want to be in okay scenario or like a situation, make sure that you are part of a film or a show that has a budget, because they'll take care of their background artists with little things. You'll be surprised how some shows don't really feed you at least like the basics of food, and sometimes it's like minimal, like barely, and you're like, dang, you can see and differentiate on what it's like to be part of different types of movies or shows and movie sets, and then the different types of budgets. You can just feel there is a difference. You know what I mean? So if you had a preference, or if I've had a preference, always try to make sure that you're going into projects that are, a little bit higher budgeted, because you'll be taken care of pretty well. I'll tell you what. Today I was surprised by the time we got out. The time I got in was surprising, and the time I got out. The calling for today was at 5:30 a.m. and they wanted us 15 minutes before that. So let's say 5:15. I got there around 5. So I had to wake up around 3:30 a.m. Now listen, I'm doing this because I enjoy it out of passion. I haven't done it in a while. It's like a hobby to me, right? I don't do this for a living. But there are some people who do this as their income, or maybe more than a side hustle, whether it's because they're trying to become, maybe actors in the future, whether it's because they like this as their job. I don't know. There's other people that are retired and they do this as a job, just standing in and doing background work, get your money in and out, and you're vibing essentially, which I understand. I completely respect. I do it because I just love it. So, and obviously I don't do it often. So waking up at 3:30, was pretty interesting today. Definitely a little tired, but I think the shoot lasted only 4 hours. So I was there from 5:30 and we ended literally about 40 minutes ago. So around 10, and only for an hour and a half or two we were actually on the set. So I just and right now I'm not sure how this works in different states, but in the state of Georgia, or at least maybe this production, I don't know how it works, I don't know this generality, but even if you work only 4 hours, they pay you the whole day. 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, they pay you the whole day. And if you go over 12 hours, they pay you times and a half, or maybe even more, I think. I don't remember how much it is, how much overtime is. I'm not sure. But obviously, check the rates, which is another thing I'll advise. Check the rates whenever you're trying to do some background work to see how much you'll get paid for the day. So how much you'll see you'll get paid even if you don't finish your 8 to 12 hours. There were some projects before in the past where there has been 12 hours. There have some projects in the past where have been 8 hours, but they give you how much they're paying you for the totality of those hours. And if you go above that, you get paid extra. For example, back when I did the Fast and the Furious about 12, 13 years ago, I think this was about 13 years ago when they were filming it. 12, 13, something like that. I remember that they needed me around maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, and I got there at that time. But eventually, we went all the way through the night until like 3, 4, 5 a.m. in the morning. And after the 12 hours, the 12-hour mark hit, or maybe the 8 or 12, whatever, I started getting paid overtime rates. So in total, for about 2 days of work for this project, I made about $500. And to me, as a college kid, I was like, yo, this is kind of dope. The reason I got paid a little bit more though is because I was in a specialty, and a specialty means something that you might be a professional on. So the military. Now I was never in the military, but I had experience with ROTC. So when I sent my application, I was like, hey, listen, I don't have military experience, like in the military, but I know it's all the basics of the military because I've been in programs for years, so I knew exactly what to expect. And I was honest with them, and they were like, all right, when they got back to me, they were like, send us your phone number and stuff. And eventually I went to get a custom shot where you tried on the custom, and then they sent those pictures to the director. And it was a very famous director. I forgot his name, but he's done a lot of movies. I think it might have been James Wan, if I'm not mistaken. and either his people or he decides who comes on as a I'm assuming it would have been his people. They decide who comes on as an extra, and I got chosen to be an extra in the movie, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. So my first one, like I told you guys, it was a very awesome time. Again, I wasn't there for the money. I was actually missing school and missing class at the time. So, you know, the money wasn't necessarily what I needed the most at the time, but I wanted to experience it. I wanted to see what it was like. I have an opportunity to be part of a franchise that I've always, you know, looked up to. I've always enjoyed. I've always loved, essentially. And I had a lot more opportunities to be in major scenes. One time, I remember maybe a year or two after that, I remember being part of a casting. I think it was Central Casting here in Atlanta, where I had already been working for some time, and I got offered different positions sometimes, because at that time I had a build of, it was a little bit more muscular. You know, I was younger, so I always looked military-ish or FBI-ish, you know, or SWAT-ish. Anything military, police related. Plus, because I'm Hispanic and Latino and I have this same type of cut, it just goes, it looks military, you know. So automatically, those are the roles that I get faster, and they get paid a little bit better. So I remember that I got a call. They were like, hey, listen, we like you, we need you in like this shoot because I think we think you'll be great for it, and we want you to be part of it. And they try to sell it to me. They were like, you're gonna be right next to the actor, like the main actor. They wouldn't tell me who it was, nor the show, because obviously, you know, they can't do that at the moment. But they were like, this is a great opportunity for you. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you know what? Let me get back to you. Let me think about this. But I was around like finals in school. And me knowing that I'm not going to pursue a career in acting, then my priority was school, right? But I always think about that day, because typically for background, they send you emails and stuff, but it's rare that they call you. And they call you personally. And if you get into this field, you will actually experience that. But because I already had my profile set before, because they already had seen I did a show with them that was actually part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, based off like the X-Men and stuff, I already had to work with them, and they called me maybe several weeks later afterwards, or maybe days, I don't remember anymore. But it was really close right after I did that show. And to this day, I'm like, man, what if I would have tried and done that? Maybe I would have gotten more gigs similar to that. Maybe if I would have attempted to try to get into like Hollywood and movies and stuff, who knows if I get a scene or two or a part or two. I don't know. You never know, because you never know what type of people they need. But I remember that was probably like my best opportunity into getting the most camera time, because he even told me, he sold this to me. I'm telling you, he's selling this to me. He's like, you're gonna be right next to the actor, or maybe a little bit behind, you know, because I would be an FBI agent, and you're gonna get screen time, like 100% screen time, because I would be like his backup almost, right? Like his right hand man. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, like it's happening. But because of school, and I'm already, I'll let you guys into something about me. I'm not the best at school. Like school was hard for me, right? So if I keep slacking, I didn't want to do worse. I didn't want to do even worse. So I didn't take that opportunity, unfortunately. And I wouldn't say unfortunately. It's just, it didn't line up. You know, if I was on vacation or between breaks or something, it would have been a no-brainer. But I didn't take it because it was going to require me to do maybe several days or a week. And I had another opportunity with the Hunger Games. I had another opportunity with, at the time, right, with the Hunger Games. in another scene in the Fast and Furious, but it was gonna take a week or two out of my time, and I couldn't do it because of college, you know. And that's when I was telling you Atlanta was and it still is popping with movies and stuff. I mean, they literally have a whole bunch of studios here. This is my second studio that I've been into. I've been to the Tyler Perry one, and I've been to this one right now that I just went to, which I don't even know the name, is Cine Studios or something like that. But it's a big one too. This was where Stranger Things was filmed. And I recognize the studio because I'm a Stranger Things fan. And when I saw like the extras of the videos, when, you know, they're doing the background work and stuff, I recognize those buildings, and I'm like, oh my God, this is pretty cool. Like, I came to where they film some of us Stranger Things here in Atlanta, right, at the studios. So all of that to say, today was a pretty simple and good experience, kind of getting me back into the flow of background work. I tell you what though, I think in the future, if I want more screen time, I need to be more of specialty, like FBI and police work and military, because typically those are the people that are around the actors. Today there were some FBI agents, which I didn't, my role was not for that. Today my role was more like a sound person and like a boom person for camera. And the FBI agents, who were the background artists, were right behind the actors, like all the actors, because it was like a press conference or something. And it was just like, dude, I was like, that's where you need to be if you want to get some screen time, some camera time. How do I know that? It's because I've done that in the past, and that's how I've gotten my screen time, right? So you'll get to experience if you're trying this, and if you've done this already, then you know how it works. Some people, again, you know, they like to do big shows and big movies because they live off of this. I remember when I did the Fast and the Furious, there was a couple that traveled, I think, from like either California or like upstate, the states upstairs, maybe Chicago or something like that, but far away from Atlanta. They traveled because they got this gig here in Atlanta. And if you think about it, they did about a week. And if you do the math, assuming that the schedule kept going the way that we did for 2 days, right, where I got $500, they probably would have gotten, you know, $1,200 to $1,500 maybe, if you do the math. So I'm not saying it's a full-time thing, and I'm not saying this is what you do full-time, because you don't know when you'll get roles and gigs. But if you get like a week or two gig, it doesn't pay that bad, especially nowadays with I feel like roles now, before some of them used to pay $8 an hour, but I don't see those anymore. I only see the 14s and the 12s and up now. Again, if you already have a full-time job and you're doing well, then obviously this might just be like, I don't even consider this a side hustle. It's just something fun, something that I like to do. It's part of a hobby, and I decided to make a video. So I stopped making a day in the life videos in my channel, but this is a good one to make, because I think it's really interesting. You get to see actors up close. I got to meet, I can't tell you today, but I got to meet and see actors that I've seen in TV shows a long time ago. One of the best TV shows that people consider from Breaking Bad, he was in that show, and it wasn't the two main actors, right? But it was somebody else who played a big role, and I got to see him, and he was just standing there. It's just like, it's so surreal, you know, very surreal. And you see these people act in other shows or movies, and you're just like, wow. And then you get to see them act, because you're supposed to technically act. The camera's not on you, but you have to have a spirit of, when they say background, that's you. You gotta start, you act whatever your role is. You might have to get serious, you might have to do a little here and there, you know? So watching them do their profession is amazing. It's surreal, like I mentioned. It's very special, because I was thinking right now at the moment, I'm like, this show, and this is part of Netflix. I mentioned this earlier. This show, probably like hundreds of thousands of people will watch this show, if not more, but just a lot of people. And I'm like, this scene, people will see this scene, and I'm watching it like 10, 20 feet away happen. And when I watch it, when a show comes out and I get to watch that scene, I'm gonna be like, I was part of that, you know, like part of how they work, part of how it all functions. Just have an appreciation of what goes into Hollywood. Essentially, it's crazy how a 30-second scene to a movie set to a minute movie, a minute scene can take hours. I mean hours. And I was wondering, how do they get so many episodes in like 6 months or 9 months? They have to be working endlessly for that time period, because it was just, you know, maybe a scene or two. Maybe it was just one scene that might be a minute and a half when you watch the show, but it takes hours and a lot of work, man. The production team, everybody. And it's just like, wow, it's special. It truly is. It's a craft. It's a profession that I really, respect a lot. And, but yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Kind of like a day in life, kind of like a video of making tips about being a background actor. And if you have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below of this YouTube video. Or if you've been a part of shows and films, let me know how was your experience. Let me know what shows they were. It's pretty fun. You know, I have a career, so this is gonna be just a sometime thing. Because sometimes, because of the hours, I'll probably have to take like a days off work, even though I have a lot of time, pay time off to take off. I still, have to be selective with my hours and what I do. So depending on what roles come out later, I might, look into those. But it's fun. It's a really good time. I really enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video and another day in my life. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And see you guys on the next one. Peace and love, familia. Deuce.